everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder. Today we're diving into the Nuveen California Select Tax-Free Income Portfolio. It's a mouthful, I know. We'll try to decode if this investment option is as solid as it sounds or just another corporate mirage designed to look perfect on the surface. Think of it as tax-free, sunny California, but with bonds. See if we'll cut through the jargon and look at how this fund really makes its money and what risks you should know about. Right. If you appreciate getting straight insights from corporate documents, make sure you're subscribed. We also have a Discord community linked in the description below so we can discuss different investment options. This isn't your average annual report. It's a certified shareholder report filed with the SEC, basically a super detailed peek inside the fund's operations. It covers the period ending February 28, 2025. First up, let's hear from the folks steering the ship. The portfolio managers at Nuveen Asset Management, Scott Romans and Kristen de Jong, explain what's been happening and how it affected the fund over a year. According to them, municipal bond yields went up, except for the short-term stuff which went down, and it was all thanks to uncertainty about the Federal Reserve and what Trump was planning to do with spending and taxes. For the year, the Nuveen California Select Tax-Free Income Portfolio, or NXC, returned 2.60%. That's not bad, but it didn't beat the S&P Municipal Bond California Index, which returned 3.1%. The managers mentioned that buying bonds at good prices and swapping lower yield bonds for higher ones helped, but being overweight in water and sewer bonds didn't, especially its holdings with the Palomar-Pomerado health system. Throughout the reporting period, NXC had approval to sell more shares and could have issued up to 1,300,000 shares, but only sold about 49,300,000 set asset value. Let's talk numbers. The report mentions that these funds like to make regular monthly distributions. For NXC, each share paid out $0 for 555 every month, totaling $0.5468 every month, totaling 0.546 for NXN or the New York fund. Their market yield is 4.25%, so nothing drastically different. Now, what are these funds actually holding? Most of the portfolio, nearly 45%, is in A-rated bonds, which are pretty safe. Almost a quarter, 23%, is in A-rated bonds. Lower-rated bonds, BB or below, make up 7.4%. Credit ratings are like letter grades, with AAA being excellent and anything below BB being considered speculative. Here's where the money is allocated. 29.2% is in general tax obligations, 18.2% is in utilities, and 13.5% is tied to healthcare. Alright, let's take a look at some financials. As of February 28, 2025, the fund had total assets of about $88.8 million, but after taking out what the fund owes, the net assets applicable to common shareholders is about $88.4 million. They calculate the net asset value, or NAV, per common share by dividing the net asset by the amount of outstanding shares, which puts us at 13.79, dividing the net assets by the amount of outstanding shares, which puts us at 13.79 assets by the amount of outstanding shares, which puts us at 13.79 per share. The fund earned close to $3.7 million with interest, but obviously not all of that is kept. The management expenses come out to about $227K. By subtracting the expenses from our income, we are left with $3,357,661. Realized and unrealized gains and losses from investments resulted in a loss of about $1.1 million, so our net gain is about $2.22 million in net assets. Alright, final table. Now things get spicy and you get to see if it actually did anything. At the beginning of the year, it was at $13.98, and by the end of it, with management and everything, it went down slightly, which means that if you had any share in the company, for every 100 shares you had, you lost $19. Every 100 shares you had, you lost $19. As mentioned earlier, the common shares had you lost $19, the turnover rate to be approximately 8%. We can calculate the turnover rate by taking the lesser of the amount it purchased or sold and divide it by the average value of assets. We can calculate the turnover rate by taking the lesser of the amount it purchased or sold and divide it by the average value of assets. Let's see what the managers say about themselves in this report. This section is required by the SEC. It's where companies basically have to be blunt and say, here's all the things where we could crash and burn, turd. There's everything you would expect. Interest rate risk, credit risk, default risk. But a few things that stands out. They're not supposed to buy defaulted securities, but there's a loophole where they can help a struggling bond issuer, potentially sinking even more money into a bad situation. Having a Puerto Rico section specifically raises an eyebrow and tells us they probably have a little bit more involvement there than they would like, which could be a signal for elevated risk. The global economy and potential instabilities are a factor for everyone, but something to think about. We've seen this play out with airline companies too, so not surprising that's cited. That's all that's really special in this report. No major red flags, no sudden resignations. So how will they do in the future? Here's my take. Right now, what we can appreciate about this report is the focus on tax-free income is pretty unique with the California market. However, it isn't immune to interest rate hikes. Its performance has really been middle of the road. The Puerto Rican bonds, while just a small part, probably creates some stress. The potential for defaults amongst some of the holdings, especially those non-rated bonds, is certainly a risk. Overall, this fund is pretty stable, but nothing amazing. I would say that the returns match the risks very accurately with a slight edge to riskier investments if you are into that. Alright, that's our breakdown of the Nuveen California Select Tax-Free Income Portfolio Annual Report. What's your take on these numbers and what they signal? Let us know in the comments. If this analysis was valuable, hitting that like button really helps, and subscribe for more deep dives. Don't forget, our Discord link is in the description. Thanks for watching. See you next time.